Welcome back, everyone, to Constructive Uncoupling, the podcast devoted to amicable divorces. I'm Judith Weigel, your host and amicable divorce expert. Why? Because that's all I do, amicable divorces. Today's episode bears repeating and repeating and repeating. I can never do enough of these episodes. And the episode is Divorcing High Conflict Personalities. People that cannot see rhyme or reason, people you cannot communicate with, people who you're always fighting with, people who want to control you. That's the bottom line. People who want to unnecessarily and in the craziest ways want to control you. So there's a gentleman named Bill Eddy. Bill Eddy started out as a family law attorney, then became a social worker, then became a mediator. And he's now the premier individual who speaks around the world on how to deal with high conflict personalities. He teaches judges, he teaches lawyers, and he teaches therapists. The books that he has written teach the general public. And so if you just go on Bill Eddy, EDDY, just Google his name. He has, about 25, 26 books on Amazon. Look at the ones dealing with legal disputes, divorce, co-parenting, high conflict personalities, with high conflict personalities. You really need to do research on this. So I'm going to do the best I can in this particular program. But if you would start reading his books, the lights would go on and your world would change to some extent. It requires education. So here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to read to you from one of Bill's books called Don't Alienate the Kids, because divorce is hard enough, but when there are children, that's when it gets exponentially harder. That's when it takes a much longer time generally to resolve, to conclude. And it is the piece of the divorce or the paternity suit that keeps on giving. So the first thing I want to do is explain. You have divorce cases and you have paternity cases. And in both cases, you have children involved. Divorce, you have maybe children, maybe not. But paternity, you totally have children involved. And paternity cases are when you're not married, you have children, everything's been okay for a while, but all of a sudden it's not. And you need to establish parental relationship with the court. That's what the paternity case is. You want to establish parental relationship with the court. And then second, you have to establish the custody relationship you have with the children. The visitation schedule, custody is a category of decision-making. Visitation has percentages of time attached to it. And then you have child support. So that's where high conflict personalities will have to be dealt with in paternity situations. And then divorce, it's the asset and debt division on top of children. So let me first of all read to you the definitions of high conflict personalities. And again, I'm going to be reading to you from Bill Eddy's book, Don't Alienate the Kids. And it's about high conflict parents, but honestly, it doesn't matter whether they're parents or not. The descriptions of the personality disorders, even if you don't have children and you're about to get divorced or legally separated, or you're in the middle of it, this is going to be seriously important. So here we go. High conflict divorces are driven by one or two high conflict parents. Over time, these often turn into cases with an alienated child, a child who intensely rejects one parent. The case at the beginning of this chapter that he described as being an all or nothing case, excuse me, was a perfect example of a parent using the three bad bricks or wall bricks of a high conflict parent. The three bricks are all or nothing thinking, unmanaged emotions, and extreme behavior. The father, in this example, wanted the mother to be totally excluded from the wedding. He wasn't willing to just avoid her at the wedding or briefly say hello. His solution was all or nothing. She would not participate at all. And here's an explanation of it. His anger was still so unmanaged, this is years after the divorce, that he couldn't get over it years after the divorce was concluded. It drove his decision to exclude his wife from the wedding, and his behavior was extreme. He offered his daughter $10,000 to keep the mother away. So in Bill's example, which I didn't want to go through the whole thing, was years after a very high conflict divorce, alienating the children having to choose loyalties at some point in time just to get over the arguments. Now it's time for his daughter to get married. He offers her $10,000 if the daughter doesn't invite mom to the wedding, plus he offers to pay for the wedding. Daughter goes for it. So who knows what really happened, but it's child alienation, parent alienation. That's actually what did happen, because now the daughter's choosing money and dad over mom. I mean, maybe she's right in doing it, who knows, but that is an example of alienation. Of course, Bill goes on to say, we don't know how the mother behaved over all of these years. Perhaps her actions were equally bad or worse after their separation or divorce. On the other hand, she may have been a reasonable parent, just trying to protect her daughter from her ex-husband's anger and high conflict behavior. From my experience over 30 years with divorcing families and from my surveys of divorce professionals, I would say that half to 2/3 of high conflict divorces include one high conflict parent with the above characteristics and one reasonable parent who has been walking on eggshells for years. So why do people act this way? Why are people high conflict? Why would someone act so extremely? If someone is a high conflict person, and he labels them HCP, high conflict personality, then he or she may have a personality disorder. And don't I get calls with people describing this all the time? If so, this means that they are stuck. That these characteristics are part of who they are. I believe that about half of high conflict personalities have a personality disorder, and about half have some of these traits, but not a full personality disorder. This means that they are still difficult, but may respond more easily to approaches designed for people with personality disorders. It helps to understand some of these traits, but it is important not to tell someone you think they have a personality disorder. They may become very defensive and angry with you, as defensiveness is a common characteristic of those with personality disorders and those with just traits. Personality disorders appear to be growing in our society. Okay, now, I interviewed Bill Eddy in January of 2020. And I asked him, do personality disorders change based on the culture of the country or community that they're living in? And he said, yes. Narcissism is the predominant personality disorder now. It's all about selfishness. It's all about me, me, me. And unfortunately, we're in a me, me, me society. So narcissism is growing. Over the last few years, the National Institutes of Health sponsored a study which concluded that about 20% of the general population of the United States meets the criteria for a personality disorder. That's a lot of people. They broke down their results into age groups and gender. I will give the percentage results below, but it's important to know that there is a lot of overlap, as some people may have more than one such disorder. Oh God, when they do. It's horrible. And some do. And some are famous people that we know. The 5 personality patterns that most commonly appear in high conflict divorces are the following, in my opinion. You can see why they constantly get into conflicts with those closer to them. Here's the definition and the breakdown. Borderline personalities. Borderline personalities have extreme mood swings, friendly and loving one minute and angry and blaming the next. They are preoccupied with fears of abandonment. This is so important. Preoccupied with fears of abandonment. When they feel abandoned, even if they aren't, and generally they are not, they can become enraged, vindictive, and sometimes violent. They can be highly manipulative, mostly to avoid abandonment or to punish someone who they feel abandoned them. Sometimes they make false statements and spread rumors. They often split, quote unquote, people into all good or all bad in their eyes. You know, we're even seeing this in politics, by the way, for the past 20 years. You know, we started using the words bad guys. And that really bothered me. I didn't understand why and where it came from. And then as I saw the progression of politics, even to today, 2021, we're a very divided country. And good guys and bad guys, that seems to be what it is, black and white. The National Institute of Health study said that 5.9% of the general population meets the criteria, 5.9%, for borderline personality disorder. So if we have 340 million people in the United States now, you figure out what 5.96% is. It's more than we want, right? The gender results were 53% female and 47% male. Interesting again, more females have borderline personality traits than males. But remember, many people may have some of the disorder some of the time, but not have the full disorder. Okay, that's number one. Number two, narcissistic personalities. That's number one right now in our culture, the me culture, the I am not to blame culture. You are to blame, I am not to blame. Bill says they can be very arrogant and preoccupied with themselves. They try hard to be seen as superior and very important. They seek constant admiration and praise and get angry when they don't get it. They can be highly manipulative and very disdainful and demeaning to those around them. Oh God, yes. I have seen this constantly come through my office. The demeaning part in mediations, unbelievable. How do you expect to get anywhere when you're demeaning? Because once the divorce hits, people have help, people have support, and they're not going to let you do this. When they feel insulted or disrespected, even if they aren't, they can become enraged, vindictive, and sometimes violent. They may make false statements and spread rumors to regain a sense of control when they feel powerless and inferior. They can also engage in splitting, again, all good, all bad, those around them into superior and inferior. Okay, borderline good and bad, narcissistic, superior, and inferior. Interesting distinction to make. The National Institute of Health study said that 6.2% of the general population meets the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. That's a little more than borderline. The gender results were 62% male and 38% female. Almost 40% of those with narcissistic personality disorder meet the criteria for borderline personality disorder as well. Oh my God, 2 and 1. Although narcissism is more predominant in men, borderline more predominant in women, together we're screwed. And together the percentage of people is 6.2 and 5.9. So we're dealing with a little over 12%. Okay, it gets worse as we go on. Paranoid personality disorder. They are very fearful and suspect that other people want to manipulate them or hurt them. They often imagine that others are conspiring against them. They are mistrustful and expect that people close to them will betray them sooner or later. They will sometimes attack others first, verbally or physically, in order to prevent being attacked themselves by surprise, even though no one is planning to attack them. National Institute of Health study said that 4.4% of the general population meets the criteria for this disorder. The gender results were 50%, 57% male and 43% male, 53 female, 43 male. I literally just got a case like this, and it's the woman who is paranoid. It's not the first case I got. First case I had to give to an attorney. This particular case, the woman is represented by a lawyer. I am filing paperwork for the respondent husband. But what I'm listening to one of the daughters say, because the daughter is working for dad because dad doesn't speak English as clearly as he would like. She had to be on a psychiatric hold because it got that bad. She was a danger to herself and other people. All right, 2 more to go. Antisocial personality disorder. They can be the most dangerous and uncaring, antisocial. They often feel other people's suffering. They often enjoy other people's suffering and like to dominate and be in control. They don't care about the rules of society. Instead, they just want what they want, and they will do anything to get it. People in politics land in this category, unfortunately. They are chronic liars and lack remorse. They can be highly manipulative and maybe like icons in business too, to get to that level. They can be highly manipulative and often persuade others that they, the antisocial one, are victims, when in fact they are perpetrators of bad behavior. They view people as powerful or as suckers who deserve what they get. The only thing is winning. You never want to lose because then you're a loser. Have we heard this recently? We absolutely have. Violent revenge or causing other people suffering is often seen as justified in their eyes. Okay. People in the news, whether it's politics or business or entertainment, they all have big personalities. And in order to get to the top, quite often you make compromises. Most of us can't make those compromises if we don't have any parts of high conflict personality disorder in us. Those who get to the top, as charming as they may sound, those are the people that come under this category of antisocial, because the deals you have to make, quite often, not all the time, but quite often to get to the top, you can't care about people as you rise to the top. And it's unfortunate. It's completely unfortunate. All right, moving on with Bill. The National Institute of Health study said that 3.6% of the general population meets the criteria for this disorder. The general results were 74% male and 26% female. So more male are antisocial than female. Approximately 20% of those with borderline personality disorder and narcissistic disorder also have antisocial personality disorder. This is amazing, isn't it? How this gets compounded. And lastly, histrionic. Okay, people don't know about this. They don't know the word histrionic. But listen, you have histrionic in your life. They are generally overdramatic and very intense, these people. They constantly are talking about being a victim of this or that and can go on and on about dramatic details, which may or may not be true. They are attention seekers, and once they have your attention, they don't like to let go. They look to others to solve their problems. They are prone to lots of exaggeration, sorry about that. Well, aggression, yes. They are prone to lots of exaggeration of facts and of emotion. The National Institute of Health study said that 1.8 of the general population meets the criteria for this disorder, and the gender results are 51% male and 49% female. It's also important, and this is in conclusion, it's also important not to think of these characteristics as defining a whole person. Okay, I don't know why not, because it's so dominant, but okay, this is what Bill says. And I do trust this man implicitly. People with personality disorders or traits can be high functioning in society, such as in their work, while they are very difficult in close relationships. And isn't that what divorce and paternity issues are about? They can have the full range of intelligence from very low to very high. So when someone is referred to as borderline or a narcissist, it's like calling someone a diabetic or a painter or a Californian. It's just one aspect of their personality. Okay, so this is what you're dealing with when you're dealing with high conflict personalities. And you all know when something's wrong. You all know when you're dealing with a spouse or a mate that's really hard to deal with. You just don't know the characteristics as much as you should, and you don't know how to deal with them. So now we're going to go to, what do we do? Now that we know we probably have somebody in our lives like this, what do we do about it? Well, just continuing with Bill Eddy before I branch out, Bill Eddy has this method called BIF. B as in boy, I, F as in Frank, F as in Frank. BIF. Be brief, informative, friendly, and firm. Brief, informative, friendly, and firm. And that's when you're responding to texts, responding to emails, or responding verbally before you get to court. Brief, friendly, and firm. Okay, friendly and firm. So you get a horrible email or text. And part of this horrible email and text is it comes out of the blue. It's demanding that you address something that you've either already addressed, there's already been a ruling on it, or it's been an ongoing conversation. It continues to be an ongoing conversation. And maybe it seems like there's no end to it. But here's the deal. You get a text or an email, generally not a phone call, and you are required by them to answer within 24 hours. It's not the law, it's just them. And all of a sudden we get all wrapped up into, oh my God, I've got to respond in 24 hours, or what? That's where your own fear comes in. Or what? There's no legal consequence. Just because your soon-to-be ex-spouse or the father or mother of your child tells you to answer in 24 hours, or then this threat that they're giving you, maybe they did put a threat in, this really does concern you, and I totally understand that it does. But you can't play the game. You just can't play the game. Unless they are literally with your child and holding them hostage, I mean, you're either going to have to get law enforcement to help you or another attorney with what we call an emergency filing in court. Or if you don't have any of these safety nets to draw upon, you just have friends and family, you've got Bill Eddy and you've got Biff. And this is what Biff would tell you to do. You could easily just briefly say, I am so sorry, I am not in the position to respond. I will when I can. Your issues I know are important, but I need time to think and respond properly. That would be a BIF. Brief and friendly, brief, informative, friendly, and firm. Now, you didn't alienate them. You didn't tell them they were nuts. You didn't bang out something horrible that you're going to be regret anyway later on, and maybe say things that, of course, you wish you hadn't, because then they're going to save everything. Believe me, they're documenting everything. But you also didn't bow down to the disruptive nature of the email or the text, meaning nothing you're doing is important. Drop everything and respond to my needs. That's what they're saying. And you just have to stop that pattern in your life. Obviously, if there's a physical emergency, you call in the professionals to help you. You don't deal with it on your own. And that's the other way to mitigate what they're asking you to do. Brief, informative, friendly, and firm. Then you have to look at your children. Your children are affected the most in real life situations like this when you're dealing with a high conflict personality. So just having two households may be the first step to resolving the conflict, because your kids really have to be first. I know you're dealing with your own stuff. The emotion of getting divorced is horrible. The fear of not having enough money to live on is real. But you got to get two households. You can't stay in the same house with a high conflict personality, especially when you have children. When there are two households, the immediate result is it's at least calmer in your household if you're not the high conflict personality. But they do have to go over to the other parent's household. Now, should they? Is it okay? Are they safe? More than likely they are if there's no substance abuse and there's no corporal punishment, unnecessary corporal punishment going on. But then what are you laying yourself open to in the high conflict world of co-parenting? You're holding yourself open. You're open to the high conflict personality using your child as a messenger, as a device, and as a weapon. And you can't buy into that. You literally can't do it. You can't play that game. So the high conflict personality, when it comes to children, are going to either not talk to you, the other parent, about things, but they're going to use your child as a messenger. Again, you go to Biff. And you can initiate the Biff email. Our children are here's an example. Our children are our most precious assets. I mean, it's so horrible to talk about children because they become product, they become other nouns. So our children are the most dear to us, better way to say it. Our children are the most dear to us. Let's protect them at all costs, regardless of what we may think of each other. Let's do the best we can at co-parenting our children. Let's talk about what would be best for you and me. Would you like to have a third party present when we do this? And that would either be a mediator, would be a mediator. If you see this happening, that your children are being used as devices, as messengers, you have to address the high conflict parent like that and use first person plural pronouns. We, us, let's. Let us. Join with that person. Never exclude that person. Again, they feel alienated. You never want to use language or behavior that alienates them. And if they unnecessarily are saying they're alienated, dial it back and just say, oh, no, so sorry. The intention is never to alienate you, ever, ever. Oh, no, we should both be part of their lives. Let's see how we can do this right. If you keep wanting to be positive, if you keep wanting to use let's and we and us in a very positive way, and then go to your child or children and just say, look, I do not want to use you as a messenger. And then you teach them Biff. When they are presented with the message that the other parent wants them to deliver, train them to say, we do not want to be used as messengers. This is very important, daddy or mommy, that you communicate this to the other parent, but we do not want to be the ones to do that. We don't want to be in the middle. And when they start saying that, changes the whole dynamic. Hopefully, they're not going to be in jeopardy for saying that. If they are, then it really just shows another part of your high conflict parent's personality that needs to be dealt with legally and therapeutically. It's really important, and get your kids in therapy so that they have the tools of communication and understanding that they can use Biff as well. Daddy, mommy, we understand that what you're saying is really important, and daddy or mommy needs to understand this, but we don't want to be the messengers. Daddy, mommy, please communicate with each other. When you can teach your kids this strategy, this tool, they can use it for the rest of their lives. Please know that you're not going to change the personality of your spouse or your co-parent, but you can mitigate the blowback of intensity of response if you understand how to communicate. And this is really all about control. Remember what Bill said is they feel alienated. When you feel alienated, you feel like you're not in control. Not only are your feelings hurt that you feel alienated, even if it's not true, but the feeling that you're out of control, narcissists especially, need to feel in control. Histrionic, antisocial, paranoid will never feel in control. Ever, 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 because these are too far gone. But narcissism, which is the predominant personality disorder, if you can keep showing them that they have control, just a different type of control, just control in a different way, and that you want them to be part of your lives. You don't want to alienate them. You have a fighting chance of co-parenting well, or at least getting this divorce over, even if there are no children, the best way that it can be. And speaking of control, let's segue into our last third portion of this episode, and that is how to retain legal advice, how to retain a lawyer that understands how to function with a high conflict personality as the opposing party. So, first of all, please know lawyers aren't therapists. And even though they deal with high conflict personalities on a daily basis, they don't always feel comfortable dealing with them. It's really tough. Have them read Bill Eddy's books, whoever you decide on. When you're interviewing an attorney, before you decide, just ask them, have you dealt with high conflict personalities? How do you deal with them? What if they don't have an attorney? Are you going to deal with them straight away? Some attorneys, even though they have to deal with the other person who doesn't have an attorney, they don't want to. They really don't want to. They're very fearful of malpractice suits, and they're very fearful of dealing with somebody who doesn't understand the law. Very fearful. So you need to get an attorney who understands high conflict personalities, is not afraid to deal with them, maybe has read some of Bill's books or has gone to training. But more importantly, water seeks its own level. And your high conflict spouse or co-parent may hire an attorney who's also a high conflict personality. What do you do then? And you really have to sort this out with your attorney. How far do you let that person go with frivolous filings? A lot of times it can be frivolous filings. Okay, so I have some stories for you. This one story is about sitting at a seminar with attorneys at a bar association of which I'm a member. And this was several years ago. And we're, waiting for the seminar to begin. Dinner was served. And I'm just sitting and listening to two attorneys who knew each other, different firms, but knew each other for years. They were older attorneys, so they've been through the mill. And one attorney says to the other attorney, "Hey, I just got a great new case. And I've already spoken to an opposing counsel. And he said, get ready. I'm going to paper you to death." What does that mean? Paper you to death. It means what you probably think it means. I'm going to do so many filings in court, it's going to make your head spin. So the person the opposing counsel was representing was the husband, and the husband was very wealthy and could afford the services and time of his attorney to do what we call frivolous filings. Filings that are absolutely not necessary. Some are and many aren't. Just to cause their wife pain. Now, as I'm listening to this, I'm listening to how the attorney for the wife responded to opposing counsel. So she wasn't saying anything. She was just smiling because that meant a lot of money for her. So opposing counsel was loving it. He was going to make a lot of money, hourly rate, $400 to $500 an hour minimum. She was going to make a lot of money because soon-to-be ex-husband was paying the lawyer fees for the wife. Husband just wanted to beat the wife down. So the attorney for the wife was loving the amount of money she, female attorney, was going to make, knowing her client was going to be beaten down emotionally. So I just said to the female attorney, I said, well, what did you say to opposing counsel? And she said, what could I say? I said, what you could say is, this isn't right. We should not be engaging like this. We should not be taking direction from your client who already said they want to beat down the emotion of my client. We should not be doing this. We should be explaining this is inappropriate. Let's just stick to the facts in the case and let's get through this. But that's not what it's like in law. So what do? Well, if you have an attorney and your soon-to-be high conflict personality spouse doesn't, there are things called vexatious litigant filings. Vexatious litigant filings. And that's when you see a self-represented party just keep filing and filing and filing. I had a client like this. I don't know, going on 4 years, no minor children. And I just was helping him respond to these crazy filings until 2 years ago, I looked at him and said, this is before I even knew about vexatious litigant. I looked at him and said, look, I mean, I may be out of order saying this, but is there something wrong with your wife? Because what I'm reading, the reasons why she's going to court, I've never seen this before. He didn't want to talk about it at that point, but there got to be a point where he had to talk about it. And an attorney that had to do a filing for him that I wasn't qualified to do, because only an attorney could do it. And certainly I didn't want to, I wanted him to be represented properly in some areas that I'm not the right person to file. And that attorney said, wait a minute, this really seems out of order. There's such a thing called a vexatious litigant filing to prevent your wife from filing more crazy things. Well, the husband wouldn't do it. And he's to this date, he hasn't done it. He's divorced and still dealing with division of assets. He's already divorced. 2 years ago, he got divorced. And he's still in court with her. She's filing things that are unbelievable, wanting to turn back. She walked out of the trial. She walked out of the trial after 5 minutes when the judge said, I'm going to make some decisions even if you're not here. Are you sure you want to walk out of the courtroom? And she just walked out. I mean, this is what it's like with high conflict personalities, antisocial behavior. Laws don't mean anything to them. You really have to do the best you can and use what's available to you legally to stop as much of the craziness in your life as you can possibly stop. Because the filings are going to keep coming if you don't. But yes, if you have an attorney and your high conflict spouse has an attorney who's also a high conflict personality themselves, or at least doesn't have the moral compass to say, we can't keep doing this, you really have to ask your attorney, how can we make this stop? What are the legal options available to us to make this stop? Can we file vexatious anything? Because we need to get to the bottom of this divorce now. It's not easy. It's not easy. But at least I hope I've given you a different way of thinking. And what's so fascinating about this topic, about legal disputes with high conflict personalities? We can read these books and it seems reasonable and fine, and we can start doing the Biff method, which is the best thing I've ever done. But then we can get wrapped up into the emotion of the day and we can forget. Really and truly keep reading, keep focused, keep reading. And even see if you can book a session with Bill Eddy. His company is the High Conflict Institute in San Diego. I mean, it is so worth it to keep going to him, listening to him talk, keep getting you straight. It's like guided meditation. We need to have this focus all the time. So at least we're not destroyed and we do the best we can dealing with high conflict personalities. So thank you very much for joining me on Constructive Uncoupling, the podcast devoted to amicable divorces. I'm Judith Weigel, your host, Amicable Divorce Expert. Please share this episode with your friends. Please, if you don't already have yourself registered as a subscriber, please do that and have your friends do that. And my email address. You can always reach me with questions or topics you would like me to tackle. My email address is judy@constructiveuncoupling.com, judy@constructiveuncoupling.com, or Judith, because I'm converting soon, at amicableddivorceexpert.com, judith@amicableddivorceexpert.com. Please do your best at having an amicable divorce, an amicable court experience, and of course, an amicable day.